The War Council of the Zrathi Confederation fell silent as High Commander Thelnor activated the holographic display. Spinning slowly in the amber light were dozens of captured human weapons, each one catalogued and analyzed by their finest military scientists. "These are the implements," Thelnor began, his voice dripping with contempt, "that the humans believe will protect them from the might of the Confederation." Around the chamber, the assembled commanders leaned forward, their multiple eyes studying the primitive devices. There were simple tubes that expelled metal projectiles through chemical reactions, crude explosive devices, kinetic accelerators that couldn't even break light speed. One commander, General Vextar, actually laughed. "They throw rocks," he said. "Sophisticated rocks, I'll grant you, but rocks nonetheless. Our plasma weapons vaporize matter at the molecular level, and they throw rocks." "They don't understand," thought Thelnor. "These humans come from a death world, yes, but death worlds breed survivors, not warriors. There's a difference. The humans called their world Earth. Standard analysis confirmed it as a Class 9 death world, teeming with predators, pathogens, and environmental hazards that would kill most sentient species within days. Somehow, humanity had not only survived but thrived, covering their planet in cities and industries. Impressive, but irrelevant. The Confederation wanted Earth's location. It sat at a strategic crossroads of 3 jump routes, perfect for a forward operating base. The humans had refused the generous offer of relocation. They would learn the cost of defiance. "We move on their colonies first," Thelnor announced. "Titan Station, orbiting their 6th planet. Show them we are not to be refused." The fleet arrived at Titan Station 3 cycles later, 40 capital ships, each bristling with weapons that could crack continents. The human station was a modest thing, a mining and research facility housing perhaps 10,000 souls. They'd sent exactly 1 ship to meet the Confederation fleet, a single destroyer. "They mock us," Vextar snarled from his command throne. "Send them a warning shot," the plasma lance carved through space, deliberately missing the human ship by a comfortable margin. The destroyer didn't move. Then its communication channels opened. "Confederation fleet." The voice was calm, almost bored. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Thermopylae. You are in violation of Terran sovereign space. Withdraw immediately or we will be forced to engage." The War Council erupted in laughter. 1 ship against 40. Madness or stupidity, it didn't matter which. "Captain Chen," Thelnor replied, unable to keep the amusement from his voice. "Your bravery is noted. Stand down, and we will spare your ship and crew." "Negative, Commander. Last chance. Turn around." Foolish primates, Thelnor thought. So be it. Destroy them. 3 destroyers broke formation, moving to surround the human vessel, their plasma arrays charged, reality itself seeming to shimmer with contained energy. But the human ship moved first. What happened next would be analyzed in military academies for generations. The Thermopylae didn't try to run. It didn't attempt evasive maneuvers. It did something no Confederation captain would have considered. It accelerated directly toward the Confederation flagship. "Evasive action!" someone screamed, but there was no time. The human ship's railguns opened up, and Thelnor learned a terrible lesson about kinetic weapons. What they lacked in exotic physics, they made up for in brutal simplicity. No shields in the galaxy were designed to stop solid matter traveling at 50,000 meters per second. The tungsten slugs punched through his flagship shields like they weren't there. Armor meant for deflecting plasma vaporized under the kinetic impacts. 1 round tore through the command deck, missing Thelnor by centimeters. He felt the wind of its passage, felt the heat of friction-ignited air. But the Thermopylae was just 1 ship. The Confederation destroyers locked on, fired, and human shields flickered under the plasma barrage. The ship was dying, everyone could see it. Then Titan Station opened fire. The mining facility had seemed defenseless. Scans had shown no weapon systems, no military installations. What they hadn't shown were the 200 nuclear-tipped missiles hidden in the civilian fuel storage bays, or the mining lasers that could cut through asteroid rock, now retargeted for military hulls. That space filled with fire. 3 Confederation destroyers simply ceased to exist, consumed by nuclear hellfire. The mining lasers, crude and low-tech, found gaps in shields and armor, boring through ships like termites through wood. All ships return fire, destroy that station. Thelnor ordered, but the chaos was just beginning. The Thermopylae, shields down and atmosphere venting from a dozen breaches, didn't pull back. It rammed straight into a Confederation heavy cruiser. The impact at those speeds was devastating. Both ships broke apart in an expanding cloud of debris and bodies, but the cruiser suffered more. Its antimatter core containment failed. The explosion lit up the Titan system like a newborn star. Captain Chen's final transmission echoed across all channels. Humanity doesn't negotiate with tyrants. Come at us, and we'll show you what a death world teaches its children. The Battle of Titan Station lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 15 Confederation ships were destroyed or crippled. Titan Station was rubble, but its 10,000 inhabitants had evacuated in the confusion, disappearing into the asteroid belt. Thelnor stood in his damaged command center, studying the casualty reports with growing dread. 1 destroyer and a mining station. They cost us 15 ships with 1 destroyer and a mining station. Sir, his communications officer said quietly. We're receiving a transmission from Earth, from someone calling himself General Marcus Webb, Terran Defense Force. The hologram materialized. The human was old by their standards, his face lined with age but his eyes sharp and cold. He wore a simple uniform, no decorations, no ceremony. High Commander Thelnor, General Webb began. You came to my system, you attacked our people. You thought we'd be easy prey because our weapons are primitive, because we fight with bullets and bombs instead of plasma and exotic matter. Webb leaned forward. Let me explain something about humanity. We've been fighting wars since we learned to sharpen sticks. We've perfected the art of killing each other for 10,000 years. Every weapon you saw today we designed to kill other humans, and humans are tough to kill. Behind Webb, Thelnor could see a command center coming alive. Displays showed fleet movements, orbital platforms, ground installations. Earth was mobilizing. You wanted a forward operating base, Webb continued. You're going to get a war. And Commander, we don't have fancy shields or plasma weapons, but we have 400 years of spaceflight, 12 billion angry apes, and a really long memory for grudges. The transmission cut out. Within a day, the Confederation learned what human warfare really meant. Their fleets found themselves harassed by stealth craft that didn't show up on sensors until they'd already fired their missiles. Their communications networks were invaded by human cyber warfare, filling channels with false data and corrupted orders. Their supply lines were hit by fast attack craft that struck from the asteroid belts and vanished before reinforcements arrived. The humans fought dirty. They mined shipping lanes, they hacked life support systems, they sent automated drones on collision courses, forcing Confederation ships to waste ammunition on targets with no crew to kill. They even weaponized debris, using mass drivers to accelerate asteroid fragments to lethal velocities. General Vextar learned about human adaptability the hard way when his siege fleet surrounded New Kyoto colony. The colony had no fixed defenses, but the humans had 3 days to prepare. They turned their entire industrial base into weapons production. Fabricators meant for building habitats instead produced missiles. Chemical plants synthesized explosives. They even reprogrammed construction drones to carry proximity mines. When Vextar's forces landed, they walked into a meat grinder. Every building was a fortress. Every civilian was armed. The humans had flooded tunnels with poison gas, rigged structures to collapse, and booby-trapped supply caches. His force of 10,000 lost 3,000 troops, taking a single city of 20,000 civilians. And when they finally captured the city center, they found a recorded message from the colony governor. Thanks for the workout. We're falling back to secondary positions. See you there. It took 3 weeks to secure New Kyoto. Vextar's fleet lost 40% of its ground forces. When they finally claimed victory, the colony's industrial base was completely destroyed, scorched earth tactics having rendered it useless. They'd won nothing but a graveyard. The war turned in the Procyon system. Humanity had built something in secret, a weapons platform the Confederation scouts had somehow missed. They called it Thor's Hammer. It was simple, really. A orbital station with no exotic technology, no revolutionary physics, just hundreds of tungsten telephone pole-sized rods and a gravity well to accelerate them. Drop them from orbit, let physics do the rest. The Confederation's staging ground on Procyon IV was a fortress. Hardened bunkers, shield generators, enough firepower to repel any conventional assault. Thor's hammer dropped 75 tons of tungsten traveling at terminal velocity. The impact released energy equivalent to a small nuclear weapon. There was no radiation, no fallout, just kinetic energy converting everything in a half-kilometer radius to superheated plasma. The Confederation base simply ceased to exist, vaporized in an instant. They dropped 60 rods in 30 minutes, systematically erasing every Confederation installation on the planet. High Commander Thalnor watched the footage in his private quarters, the amber light of the displays casting shadows across his face. We've made a terrible mistake. The humans weren't fighting a war of conquest, they were fighting a war of annihilation. Every battle showed the same pattern: tactical flexibility, brutal efficiency, and a willingness to sacrifice that bordered on insanity. They fought like their extinction was on the line, because from their perspective, it was. "Sir, the Council is demanding an explanation," his aide said from the doorway. "They want to know why we're losing to primitives." Thalnor turned to face him. "We're not losing to primitives, we're losing to predators. There's a difference." The final battle came at the Saturn Gate, the main jump point into the Sol system. Thalnor brought every remaining ship, over 100 capital vessels. If they could take the gate, they could threaten Earth directly, force a negotiated surrender. The human defense fleet numbered 40 ships, but behind them, Saturn's rings had been transformed into the largest minefield in known space. And further back, the human shipyards at Titan, rebuilt and operational, churned out missiles in a continuous stream. "All ships," Thalnor commanded. "Formation Alpha. We push through whatever the humans fired first. A spread of missiles so dense it looked like a solid wall on sensors. Behind the missiles came railgun fire, then laser batteries, then the fleet itself, accelerating to combat speeds with what seemed like reckless abandon. They're not trying to defend, Thalnor realized too late. They're trying to kill us, all." The Battle of Saturn Gate lasted 12 hours. It was less a battle than a slaughter. The humans had learned everything about Confederation tactics, adapted to every weapon system, and prepared counters for every strategy. They fought with a coordination that seemed impossible, ships moving like a single organism, each supporting the others with practiced precision. When it ended, Thalnor's flagship was one of 15 ships that limped away from Sol System. The rest were debris. He stood on the bridge, looking at the carnage, at the shattered hulks of what had been the Confederation's finest fleet. A transmission came through, General Webb's lined face appearing one final time. "You came to our home," Webb said quietly. "You threatened our families. You thought we'd roll over because we fight with kinetic weapons and chemical explosives." He paused. "High Commander, humanity has been perfecting these weapons for our entire history. Every war, every battle, every conflict taught us something new. We are very, very good at what we do." Webb's expression hardened. "Go home. Tell your Confederation what happened here. Tell them humanity doesn't retreat. We reload. And if anyone else wants to test that theory, we'll be happy to demonstrate. We've got plenty of ammunition." The transmission ended. Thalnor looked at his tactical officer. "Set course for home space. Maximum speed. Sir, the Council will demand we regroup and—" The Council, Thalnor interrupted, did not watch a destroyer ram a heavy cruiser at full burn. They did not see civilians turn a colony into a fortress overnight. They did not lose 100 ships to 40. He turned from the viewport. "We're going home. And we're recommending the Confederation leave Earth space permanently." In the following cycles, the galactic community learned a new term, Terran Threat Doctrine. The principle was simple. Never engage humanity in their home territory. Never underestimate their tactical flexibility. And never, ever assume that primitive technology means primitive tactics. Earth and its colonies were granted a wide berth. Trade continued, cautiously. Diplomatic relations were established, respectfully. But military action against humanity? That discussion never came up again. Because the galaxy had learned what High Commander Thalnor learned the hard way, it doesn't matter how advanced your weapons are if your enemy is willing to use everything at their disposal, no matter how crude or brutal. It doesn't matter how superior your technology is if your opponent thinks faster, adapts quicker, and refuses to surrender. The humans didn't have the best weapons. They didn't have the most advanced technology. What they had was 10,000 years of warfare evolution, a planet that tried to kill them daily, and the absolute conviction that surrender was never an option. In the end, that was enough. The Zrathi Confederation filed an official report on the conflict. The final line read, "Recommendation: human species to be classified as apex predator. Approach with extreme caution. Do not engage militarily under any circumstances." And in a bar on Titan Station, rebuilt and stronger than ever, Captain Sarah Chen's name was carved into the wall, first among the honored dead. Beneath it, someone had written a simple epitaph that would become humanity's unofficial motto: "We don't retreat. We reload."